12 noon, and that means it's Midweek with the Mayor.
You sound like you're under the weather.
A little bit. Just
All right.
A little bit.
You want me to do most of the talking
If
then
my
today?
voice goes, you're in charge.
All right.
Do you know how to fly this
All
thing?
right.
You've done it before, right?
Is there somebody here who can fly this plane?
Yeah, it could go at any moment. So,
Why? Yeah, it's that time of year. That's why you're wearing layers today.
Well, yeah. My brother showed up for Thanksgiving dinner and brought us all a cold for a gift, and so my entire house has had it. Yeah. So, and then he blamed us.
Something to be grateful for.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, dear brother. So, it landed on me the hardest. So, the things we do for people, right?
Yeah. All for family.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, I'll keep a close eye on you throughout this program.
So if I keel, you know what to do, right? And just hit the button, and somebody will come running. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. It was
better
good.
than mine, I guess, right? You went down
better,
to,
I as far as I know, I'm healthy. So, so I got that going for me.
You went down to Long Island with the family?
I did, down to my in-laws on the Long Island, and that was always good. We drove down there and made good time. No traffic. Knock on wood. Yeah. If you leave on, we left Wednesday night. It worked out okay.
Yeah. So that's good. You were back in the saddle on Friday?
Saturday. Yeah. Saturday. Came back Saturday. So it worked. It was good. It was a good time. Just to kick back a couple of days. Kept on top of stuff here, but fortunately, knock on wood again. Knock on Formica. It was whatever this is, whatever composite this is. It was good just to get away. And
Absolutely, yeah. So when last we spoke with you, we had breaking news. We'd found a Christmas tree, and a Christmas tree is now standing in front of the library downtown. And
it is. Although it won't be lighted until it's Saturday, right?
Saturday.
So today's Wednesday, of course.
Yep.
And it'll be lighted Saturday night. So that's always a great event, right? You've been to those tree lightings, and that's a real nice family event that we'll get people together, and every year it seems to grow. Last year, I think it was in the last few years it's been over 500 people. Lots of families. The weather has cooperated. Hopefully, it will this year, and it's a good ceremony.
You think you can make it snow? Or?
I don't.
Can you put in an order for that? Just a little bit.
I don't want to see any snow.
Just some cosmetic snow.
Nothing. Maybe some fake snow. Maybe we'll order up some confetti. How's that?
In past years, it used to be on a weeknight years ago, but now it's on the weekend, so that allows more people to come out and participate in it. But we used to have Mitch Miller. Remember when Mitch Miller used to come?
I do. Yeah.
But he's not with us anymore. So
no. That was a while ago, but that was it's a good tradition in the city. It really is. And of course, we'll have the tree lighting at the Common, the Klasky Common.
That's Sunday, right?
That's
Sunday.
Sunday. I know. I know.
Jonathan's not here today. Where is he?
He's out in the hallway right
okay.
now. But I know that it will not coincide with the Patriots game.
Okay, that's
so. I think it's the Sunday. Let me look at my calendar here. We'll make sure we get the word out about that.
Yeah,
it's either this Sunday. No, this Sunday. I knew there was an event this Sunday. This Sunday is the Prize-a-Palooza at the Seaport Inn, right, which goes to the Neediest Families Fund. So that's important. So the tree lighting, it's the Klasky tree lighting at the Common is the following Sunday.
Okay.
So that's the 9th, but and then this Saturday is the lighting of the city Christmas tree downtown, and so that is just while we're at it. The parade starts at 4:30 at the bottom of William Street, and we'll march on up, and then we'll do the lighting in front of the library immediately thereafter, and then for your kids out there, kids of all ages, we're showing Home Alone. Right, a Christmas classic, even though it's not. It
has nothing to do with Christmas, really, does it?
Yeah, it does. It's set at Christmas time, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I don't know. I've never seen it. To be honest,
you should. It's a good one. Remember that kid Macaulay Culkin?
Yeah. He's like a drug addict now or something, isn't he?
Yeah, I think like a lot of these child stars, he sort of went off the rails. But it's a great movie, and it's a good family movie, and so that's at 7 at the Z, and I think there's a nominal donation for that. It's not like full movie price, so we want to encourage that. And then, it's a good time to go out and shop in the downtown. So
sure, absolutely.
So all that, it's all good.
So this past Saturday was Shop Small.
Shop Small.
Yeah.
Yep.
How any feedback at all from the merchants downtown?
I think it sounds like things have picked up. There were a number of the merchants are pleased, especially around Union Street, that the Union Street roadwork is almost entirely done now, and so that's that's good. I mean, as we talk a lot about roadwork, and there'll be a top coat put on after the settling of the primary coat this winter. So that'll happen sometime this spring, but otherwise, we're all done with Union Street.
How's the new hotel doing?
They're doing well. Yeah,
I still haven't stopped in. I haven't really gotten downtown.
You should go. Yeah, it's a good place to go in. It's good. The bar's really nice, and the restaurant seems to be doing okay. So, and the hotel itself is doing better than they expected. Yeah,
no, that's good. Maybe I'll poke in on Saturday night downtown if I can make it down there for the tree lighting. All right, so last night the council voted to approve the tax rate. Average homeowner is going to see about a $220 increase next year. Even though the council set the rate a little bit lower, the property values have gone up by 5.2%. So that means even though your tax rate is going to be lower, your actual bill is going to go up about $220. Now you were looking for, and this is like totally insider stuff, as you like to say, but you were looking for 175 tax classification. Council voted for 174. What is the big difference? What does all that mean, so people understand that?
So 175 refers essentially to 175%. All right. So the city has as most people know, a residential property tax rate and a commercial property tax rate. It has a split rate system, as it's called. Not every community in the state has that, but the cities in the state, I think virtually every one of the cities in the state have that. And so what 175 refers to is that the property tax rate for commercial properties is 175% of the rate of for residential properties, right? So it's a higher rate. And so the question, and 175% is the highest that split can go, right, in relation to it's as high as the property tax rate can go in relation to the residential tax rate. So that's what it means. So by going to 170, what was it, 170, 173? Was it 173 or 174? I didn't get a chance.
We did 174. Is what the council approved. Morad, I guess, was looking for 173.
Yeah. So the council went down just a little bit on the commercial rate, which shifts more onto the residential rate. But either way, it's a minor tweaking. So there's not a huge difference between where I was and where the council was on the matter. In general. Look, it is a constant battle to keep, taxes down in the city. And, we do, the fundamental problem here has to do with, with pensions. Healthcare is running better now, but it's, in the long run, healthcare is an issue. And so, we are working hard to make city government more efficient, and we could sure use help from the state in making a little more affordable here. You've had a couple of decades worth of state obligations that have been and fiscal obligations that have been shifted to the cities and towns in Massachusetts. Declining state aid as a percentage of the overall budget is part of it, but also, a reluctance at the state level to do real pension and healthcare reform that both ensures retiree benefits for city employees, but also makes cities financially more stable. So as cities go around the state, we're far more fiscally stable than most, but not nearly enough for my liking, and that's why we're keeping a close eye on things like the charter school proposals and other things that could pose significant pressures impose significant pressures on the budget.
So taxpayers like me and like you.
Yeah.
We say, gee, even when our taxes go down, our taxes go up. So the assessors who have the sole authority of setting the property values go out there and they increase the values by 5.2% on the houses. That's a hell of an increase. That's a big increase.
Yeah, well, so
I mean that's more than most people saw in pay increases this year.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, yeah, and that's for sure, and that greatly concerns me, and it also concerns me when we have a commercial tax rate that is that's not as competitive as it should be. Right? You know, we work hard to attract investment to the city and to both by existing businesses as well as others who aren't here yet. And you know, it's an imposition on them, and it's an imposition on residents. And you know, that is the hard work. And we try to, you know, we want to maintain a level of services here in the city. That's really important. We provide really good services to the residents of New Bedford, the kind they deserve. But at the same time, we're seeing, you know, these costs go up, particularly non-discretionary spending like pensions and healthcare that are largely in the control of the state, and that's you know, to my mind, one of the, you know, the bigger challenges out there.
So we're talking about the average rate for property taxes for homeowners, about $3,742 next year. About $4,000, just under $4,000. Is there a tipping point somewhere? Is there a breaking point in terms of what we can ask people to pay, and when they just can't afford to pay anymore?
Yeah, I already think that that it's, you know, when you talk to businesses and when you talk to residents, I think we're, you know, the taxes are too high here, and I've made that clear all around. We've talked about it numerous times on the show. There is, and you know, I think this is true, especially in cities that are in Massachusetts that are outside of Greater Boston. So the likes of, you know, Springfield and Holyoke, as well as a few others that aren't part of the Greater Boston economy, like us, Fall River. We've got to be very wary about, you know, our finances, you know, especially now, some 10 years into a national recovery. We've been growing. The country's been growing. The national economy has been growing for almost 10 years now. We've been a beneficiary of that. We've also done a lot of things right at the local level. But at some point, that's going to turn. And when it turns, there will be inevitably some cuts in state aid, and that is going to force us to take, you know, some more. If we don't do anything now, some extreme measures. And so that's why we're trying to control spending, you know, everywhere we go. I mean, our school system is still not, you know, at the so-called net school spending minimum mark. You know, city government in the last 15 years has shed about 20% of it, 18% of the entire workforce, right? So roughly 200 employees. So city government has been downsized. And when I say city government, I'm not referring to the school department, I'm referring to everything else. So that's happened. We've benefited from some real strong efficiencies and, you know, modernizing payroll and other things that have allowed for some real cost reductions. All the energy work that we've done, all the energy conservation work that we've done has also you know, allowed us to save literally millions of dollars on electricity costs. But and there are lots of other things that we've done to save money, but at the end of the day, you know, it's these big cost pressures of non-discretionary spending, pensions and healthcare that have put us in a tougher position. And at some point, the state's going to have to do something. I think, frankly, the state, you know, there will be certain cities in the state that go over the waterfall when the next recession hits. I'm not going to name them, but you're familiar with some of them. We want to make sure that we're not, you know, in a precarious position when that happens, because that's the time when the state will actually enact reforms to deal with, you know, crises around the state, and we just don't want to be the subject of the crisis.
Well, the state is already being advised by its fiscal people that we got maybe another year of solid growth in terms of economic growth, and then after that, all bets are off. So, but I mean, there comes a point, does there not, when the taxpayers just don't have any more? And obviously, we're looking to try to expand the base in terms of business and all of that, and the amount that they can contribute, bring new businesses here and take the burden off of the shoulders of the taxpayer. Right. But at what point do the homeowners, I mean, do they reach that point where they just can't do it?
From my mind, I think it's not a question of, you know, to my mind, I think that people are paying too much already. I think businesses are paying too much. And when I say too much, it's not to say that they're not getting valuable services from the city in exchange. It's just that the way the state primarily and the city secondarily over many, many years managed non-discretionary spending has put us in a more difficult position where, costs have been kicked down the road. I mean, for many years, the city didn't bother to pay its minimum pension contributions. And so it's easy for a mayor or a city council years ago to say, let somebody else pay for it. Well, here we are. We're the somebody else now. That is a real problem. And, I think that there are, we're items negotiated into some of the union contracts years ago that make it more difficult for us, not just raises, but also, other things, other, workplace condition terms that are just expensive. If, for instance, you have, you're required to have a certain number of city employees on duty in certain departments at any given time. Well, that may not fit with the operational needs of a given department, but it's there. Those things are in the contract essentially to protect certain jobs. And there may have been a time in the city's history when the city could afford that bill, but we're having a much tougher time doing that now. So, we're trying to untangle some of these obstacles, and I think having discussions like this, frankly, I mean, you're asking me a fair question. You're asking me, so how come taxes are going up? And so,
well, I think we all understand why the taxes are going up. No, but my question is, I'm not sure I'm getting it across, is that there comes a point where the taxpayer can no longer or no longer wants to or no longer can afford to pay anymore. When they're saying, hey, look,
Well, what happens is people leave with their feet. They vote with their feet.
Well, that's
right?
it. So
we
at
don't
some
want that
point,
to happen.
are we close to that tipping point where we've got, because you've admitted that the tax rate's too high, taxes are too high. So
I'll be the first one to say that, yeah.
So are we close to that point where people are going to say, hey, I'm going
I think there are some people who leave for lower tax jurisdictions already. Most of the time, if people are moving out, it's, it depends on where they are in their lives. But if they're retiring and moving somewhere else, sometimes it's for climate, right? We have a lot of folks who've moved to Florida. But in places like Florida, you do have much lower, taxes because the services in Florida aren't what they are. And plus, it's not a state that has these huge, employee retiree obligations either. So there's that. We don't have, but you don't have, to my mind, the big concern is, there are people are getting, I can't emphasize this enough, that what's driving the taxes are things that people can't see. People are willing to pay more in taxes if they see stuff. And I think, they're obviously seeing stuff in the city, right? There's, we talk about road work, that's one thing, but the development on the waterfront, the downtown, and North End, everywhere, South End. So they're seeing that. But, that's not what's driving the taxes up. What's driving the taxes up are employee benefits. Primarily, and charter schools. Those two.
So we have two different groups of people.
And those are things. Yeah. Those are the things that are driven by state policy. We have our hands tied.
So you have some people that might, as you say, move to Florida to find a less expensive lifestyle. But then you get to a point too where you have folks who just simply can't afford it anymore, and they stop paying, right? And their property is no longer on the tax rolls or whatever. There's back taxes, and that becomes a burden because you have surplus property with taxes due on it. And I can remember that being a huge problem here at one point.
Right. So that backlog has been greatly reduced over the last few years. But still, some people have been put in a pickle because, if you lose a job, you still have to pay, your tax bill. And, we've been in an upswing in the economy. People, the unemployment rate, it's as low as it's been in a long time. But even still, we have to plan for the long run when, the unemployment rate might be higher, and because of a recession, and that has implications for the city's overall fiscal health. And so, it's a long way of saying that there are more measures that we'd like to see done, but a lot of them are really based at the state level. And it's not, believe me, if anybody says, hey, Mayor, you're just sort of passing the buck, you're pointing at the state. No, I think any mayor in the state would tell you this is the same exact thing.
$2.2 million spent on marijuana in Massachusetts in the first 5 days.
Yeah.
since legalization. About $2.2 million. And I guess Northampton and Leicester, or Leicester.
I think
whatever.
it's called Leicester.
Yeah. They're going to divide $66,528 in local taxes as a result of all of that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. They get the benefit of, they're right by Worcester, so I'm sure Leicester is. So I'm sure a lot of folks from Worcester are going to that. And the other one's in Northampton, which is right by Springfield. So you get these two decent-sized cities that are right next to these first two dispensaries. But, the market will spread across the state at some point, and we'll start to see them here, and that's actually not that far away.
Well, when you think about it, though, I mean, so $66,528 split between these two communities, that's about $33,000 apiece. It's really not a lot of money when you're talking about the hundreds of millions of dollars that we have in our annual budget, right?
No, we're not going.
$33,00000 is a salary.
So we were in the process now of having applicants complete. Having prospective marijuana distributors to fill out applications and submit them to the city, and they'll be reviewed. And as part of the application process, they'll have to demonstrate what they're going to give to the city in the way of benefits. And we've tried to define that both in terms of the taxes, what in effect is a sales tax on them of 3%, but in addition to that, getting money from them to pay for education and drug education and prevention programs in the schools. So we've encouraged them to pony up along those lines, and so both of those revenue streams will be useful to the city, but in the long run, we're not going to be balancing our books on. No. What we get from
the most we can get from a local seller would be 3%, right?
Well, it is.
It's kind of like the local meals tax almost.
Right. So it's in effect a sales tax. It's 3% on the gross sales, up to 3% on the gross sales.
And then we'd get some from the state as well, or is that it? That's our whole state.
That's it. The state. That's it, huh? So I think the state gets like
17, 12. I think it was 17%.
17, yeah, it's in the teens. Yeah. And then they tell the locals, okay, you can have no more than 3%. So what a lot of locals have done is to say, we're going to require more, and so that's what we've done.
Right.
So we've said.
Can we shut the door to it altogether? Can we say we don't like what you're offering, we don't want this here, or does that have to go on the ballot?
We can't. You can't shut it down entirely, right? That would require, a complete ban requires. I think it requires a referendum under the state statute, and some communities have done that. What we've done instead is that there's a public demand out there, right? It may not be universal, but there's a public demand for these dispensaries, and we've created through a good cooperative effort with the city council. We've established a zoning ordinance that places them essentially in industrial areas. And so now they're going through the application process to secure a host community agreement with the city. They need that host community agreement to get a license from the state to do the business. And as part of that host community agreement, we've invited people to apply to be a
dope dealer.
Yeah, basically. Well, to enter into a host community agreement with the city, and we've said, here is what we expect. We expect you to hire local folks and New Bedford folks as much as we can require that under law. And we've said, whatever you do, whatever you build, it's got to look decent in the neighborhood. You can't have some gaudy thing with some huge sign with a lighted joint sticking out like the Cheech and Chong movies,
that'd be
right?
cool.
I know you'd like that,
going
right?
Up in the air,
sign, yeah. We can't have something like that, right? And you have to support drug prevention and education.
So I was reading this morning an article. I think it was Mass Inc. I want to remember. I don't want to attribute somebody. I think it was Mass Inc. that reminding people here that while it is certainly legal now to use marijuana, employers still reserve the right to fire you if you test positive for it, and they don't want you. If they administer a tinkle test and you fail, they have the right to fire you. First of all, the New Bedford employees, City of New Bedford employees, are they currently tinkle tested?
So yeah, for many positions they are. Yeah.
So would they still be subject to dismissal if the test comes back?
So nothing has changed with respect to drug testing in city government. It's still the same, and it's still. I can't think of any employers that have changed their policies. Maybe there's some out there, but I don't think any of that's changed in the aftermath of legalization.
So the message to city employees: if you want to continue to work, you shouldn't smoke.
Yeah, I mean, if you're high as a kite, we don't want somebody driving a backhoe, right? I mean, or a fire apparatus. I mean, it's common sense.
Well, police and fire are obvious.
Yeah, but there are other things too.
There are other departments that are tinkle tested too.
Right. I can get you like the full policy.
Is it like the majority of the city employees?
Yes,
it is the majority of them. Okay.
Yeah.
So this would not be relaxed for anybody. This would be
it isn't. But I also don't know. I'm unaware, and then maybe there are examples out there, but I'm just not aware of them, of businesses that have said, go ahead and now that marijuana is legal, you can show up to work, having smoked, in the morning, right? So I haven't heard of any. I don't expect that a lot of employers will relax their pre-existing requirements about having a drug-free workplace.
So I know the argument is going to come later on as soon as they open the phones later about, well, how come alcohol? We don't test for alcohol. What's the difference between that?
Yeah, I mean, some of it may be so. Until somebody shows,
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
I
don't know how to respond to that.
Well, no, look. I mean, so there are differences in degrees of impairment, right? When you consume, right? So, if somebody has, employees are not supposed to drink on the job either, even if it's just a beer at lunch. You're not allowed to do that. So, if somebody had alcohol in their system, I don't think we would test for that, but, we would if we thought somebody was impaired and they couldn't perform their duties at work. It would be an issue, even if they're not driving a city vehicle. With marijuana, there isn't, if people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I think most employers would say, there isn't, you don't have the same kind of sort of casual use that doesn't lead to impairment as you would with alcohol. In other words, the one beer at lunch or even dinner or whatever is not going to impair most people. But if you smoked a joint, most people would be impaired. Look, I mean, I haven't. So this isn't a set of arguments or a set of, issues that we've, had to confront. So, I mean, I'm certainly, willing for people to disabuse me of, my understanding, but I think most employers would say more or less the same thing.
Okay, so the law stays the same here in New Bedford. Let me take a quick break, and we've got to go. At least one call that's been hanging there for a while. We invite you to call the mayor, 508-996-0500. Got some other things. Meeting on charter schools last night, and the governor is looking for cities, I guess, all across the state to appoint civil rights officers. I wanted to ask you about that too. Have you gotten anything on that?
I read about that in the paper. They haven't reached out to us as far as I know.
All right. Well, we'll do that and some other stuff too. So stick around. You're listening to 1420 WBSM. And welcome back to the program. It is now 12:39 on a Wednesday afternoon, and we've got the mayor with us. Of course, it's Midweek with the mayor, and we got a bunch of folks that want to chat with you, Mayor. So why don't we grab a couple of calls, save my voice a little bit, and
that's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Why don't you just listen in, Barry?
I'm going to listen in. I'm going to go lay down over there and let you. There's a nice couch over there they put here in the studio, so which I don't think folks can see on the YouTube camera, but maybe we'll show it at some point. 508-996-0500. Let's go to your calls. Thank you for waiting so long. You're next in WBSM.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey.
Don't take this the wrong way. I'm not jumping on you, Mr. Mayor. But the question is, independent business in a state run by, which we know all Democrats in Massachusetts, is having a banner year this year. So I guess we're doing what we got to do to make money. And this is the first year in many years that a lot of businesses are finally making money in this area. Now, you guys oppose charter schools, but there's another, that's like an independent business, and it looks like they can make it go. And I'm not throwing stones at you. I'm just saying, why is it that government controlled, you can't get enough money for taxes, and you can't get enough money for taxes to run a municipality, and you can't get enough money to bail out here and there, and you want to keep the government schools, we'll call them, going when it seems like, and don't take it no offense, it seems like that the private school system will work better, independently owned charter schools. Why don't you guys just let it go, and you will probably get more revenue because you'll embrace these than trying to keep it the way it's going. And you shouldn't be crying about taxes, because if all the small businesses in Massachusetts, which is heavily regulated, and bigger businesses are finally making money, you guys should be getting more revenue.
Well, let me just ask a question before the mayor gets in. Now, you under the assumption that the charter schools are somehow contributing to the economy? They're paying money or saving us money?
Well, yeah, they are. If they got to build a charter school, yeah, they're going to pay. It's not going to be tax dollars to build it, I don't believe.
No,
Mayor, you want to?
They're not. I mean, but the charter schools are public schools. They're not private.
Yeah,
they're not private.
Run.
No, they're not. Well, they are chartered, right? So there's a state charter, effectively a state permission to go ahead and run a charter school, and the money that they get to run the school is public funds.
Yeah, it comes from the children that you have. I understand all that, but they got to hire groundskeepers, which would come. They got
from the public. From the public, yeah. It's tax dollars.
It's not going to come from your workforce. It's going to come from a private workforce.
Right, but it comes from taxpayer money, right?
It's funded by taxpayer money.
It's still funded by our money, by taxpayer money.
But it's going to be done more efficiently because, and I'm not throwing stones here, it appears that things, no matter how much money government gets, they can't even do it the way it needs to be done. And I'm trying to be very nice here. Where if you're a private contractor, you know they're getting public funds to run these charter schools, you're going to hold you're going to do a better job, or you're not going to be the private contractor getting those public funds. So there's a little bit of a difference there.
All right, let me let him respond to us so we can grab another call.
Yeah, the charter schools are public schools, and they're funded with taxpayer money. And so it's not like, this is a question of whether to privatize certain services or not. It's just a question of whether those services, namely educational services, are provided by a entity that is a public entity that is separate from the school district and from the city. And so what we've said is that that's a decidedly inefficient way to do it, because public schools, by virtue of being a collection of schools, can do things more efficiently, right? You have the economies of scale that come with having, in our case, a school district of some 13,000 students, right? So if you have, if what it costs, the cost associated with every student can contribute to, systemic services like sports, like facilities upkeep, like other extracurriculars, like wraparound services. And the problem that is posed by charter schools is that not only do they tend to diminish the economies of scale, right, because you reduce the scale, they also, when a charter school is established, there isn't a equivalent reduction in costs in the district, right? In other words, if you have 2 kids from a classroom of 30 that go over to the charter school and take their money with them, you still have the cost of the teacher in front of the classroom, the principal, and the down the
because
down
you don't
hall.
take a teacher out of Keith and move them over there.
We don't. So
and he mentioned the groundskeepers and
same thing.
Right, the same thing, because you don't take a groundskeeper. You
still have the custodian at the school. Yeah.
You just have to hire a new one, and that comes from that. I think the misconception with some folks is that the charter schools are private industry and they're paying their own freight, and they're not. I mean, it's coming out of the same bucket of money that the public schools are. All right, 508-996-0500. You're up next with the mayor. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi.
I hate to mention this, but I have to.
That was Barry sneezing. It wasn't a reaction to your comment, though.
I tried to hit the mic in time, but I wasn't able to get there. Sorry about that. I apologize.
Hope you're not contagious. Sorry, go ahead.
Usually when he hears my voice, he hangs up. But anyways, you couldn't help but notice that the Dragon Teeth went in at Market Basket, and I'm all in favor of solutions like that. Unfortunately,
you mean the cobblestones? Are you referring to that?
Yes, the cobblestones.
The spiked evil cobblestones.
Yeah, the spiked evil dragon teeth, as they call them. Unfortunately, now the gentleman is in the street now. And the other day, when I was taking a left to go into Fairhaven, I can't move her any further because I have a utility truck. Make a long story short, he's literally leaning on my truck.
Boy.
I said, you know something? I'm going to call the police department and just see what their take is on it. Police department says, got nothing to do with us. You have an issue, call City Hall. So I called City Hall, got a nice lady in your office, and I explained the situation. And I said, it's a shame that the city has to spend that kind of money. But I said, it hasn't gotten any better. So she says, well, I'll call traffic control, and maybe they can take care of it. Well, lo and behold, this morning I'll go by there, and the same 2 gentlemen, that man and that woman, are out there side by side in the street now, because there is no place for them to walk or stand. So if we're not going to enforce it, we were better off just leaving it the way it was.
Okay, so I think you did the right thing in calling the police. If somebody's leaning on your vehicle or darting into traffic like that, I think calling the police is the appropriate. It's just it's disturbing to me that you got that response. I will follow up with the chief on that. I appreciate your letting me know, just to make sure that things are safe in that intersection. So I'll follow up on that, and I appreciate you alerting me to it.
All right, 508-996-0500, and you are up next with the mayor. Go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Hey.
I just got a quick question. Usually the big ships come in with the exotic fruit, and they haven't come yet. Usually they at least one in November. They bring mangoes and star fruit and all that. I was wondering if they're still going to be doing that this year.
I'm wondering that myself. I know the state is, so they dock at the state pier.
Because I see it right out my window, and we've been watching every day, because usually by Thanksgiving, at least one comes in. Then after that, Christmas, it's all.
So what are you waiting to go pilfer some star fruit or what?
Whatever.
Well, most of those ships bring in clementines that get shipped to Canada right after. So if you're getting star fruit out of there, I want to know about it, because I'd like to get in on this.
Yeah, I thought they brought in like mangoes and star fruit. I know they come from quite far.
Yeah, a lot of it comes from Morocco. So there have been some problems over at the state pier that we're trying to delve into. The state is, we've had. I don't think it's any secret. There's been issues on the state's end about fixing that place up to make sure that the ships are coming in. And honestly, I'm very concerned about it.
Yeah, because they fixed that big freezer room. You know what I mean?
You are absolutely right. So
and it's just there, we're empty.
Yeah, no, that's the state pier. Up and down the waterfront, you'll see the stuff that our port authority controls. It's all in really good shape and really good working order. The problems that we have in the harbor right now are on the state's lap, and that's been a big frustration of mine. And I think that's something that we have to keep an eye on.
Thanks for the call. Excellent call. That was a different one.
She's very observant.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Well, I think she sneaks on the boat in the night with her sack over her shoulder and loads it up.
I guess. Where's she getting all this fruit from? Yeah.
I'm waiting for the damn fruit. Where is it? Come on. All right, let me take a break. 508-996-0500. Your calls from the mayor next. Stay with us. And I welcome you back. 12:51 is our time. 508-996-0500. Let's get back to your calls. Got a lot of calls this week, Mayor.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, you're on the air next with the mayor. Go ahead.
How's it going, Mr. Mayor?
Not bad. How you doing?
Good. I just want to say about the taxes going up.
Yep.
About like $4 a week, which everybody squawks and complains, but they probably spend that every day at Dunkin' Donuts. You know,
yeah, that's true, and that's an important. I'm sorry to cut you up, but that's an important piece of perspective, point of perspective. But it's still, it's just somebody can always use $4 to do something else, right?
Yeah, because things go up now. Government probably needs to do a better job at spending. But I mean, when you look at it from that way, and that's what it's about. It's about $4.25 a week.
Yep.
For the average person. So I mean, you really can't say too much because that delivers all your services, your garbage, your police, your fire. So, anybody that complains, if you're on like a fixed income, I can see that argument more. But, when things go up, I mean, this is what it costs them to run government.
All right, my friend, good perspective.
Yep.
Let me grab another one. 508-996-0500. You're up next on WBSM. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor Barry.
Hey.
Hey.
I know you mentioned charter schools or public schools, and they do receive public money, but where is their public representation? Like cities and towns have school committees that are accountable to the citizens. So if these charter schools receive public funds, do they have an open school committee that people can attend? Is the public privy to their budget? Where's the accountability that you, in any public school in Massachusetts, has where a charter doesn't?
All right, that's a good question.
It's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think there's an issue there with. So they are.
Frankly, I think the way the law is that every public school has to be publicly represented.
Well,
to have representation to the public, and charter schools, quite frankly, don't.
Yeah.
I'm not debating whether or not they're good at what they do or whether they should exist. I'm just thinking if tax dollars go to them, then they should be accountable for the way they spend them.
All right, let me let the mayor respond to that.
I think in general there could be more. I tend to agree with the sentiment of the caller, which is.
So is there no representation, parental representation or community representation on a board level at all? No, nothing at all?
No, there's not. Their meetings are subject to the open meeting law. I'm not aware. I mean, at our school committee meetings, there's always media present. Right. To my knowledge, that doesn't happen at the board meetings of the charter schools. Plus, a lot of the charter schools will set up separate foundations to receive money from private entities wherever they are, and there's very little scrutiny of. But
the lion's share of the money is public money.
It is. Yeah.
You would think they would have to be governed the same way. 508-996-0500. You're up next with the mayor. Go ahead.
Yes, please. I think there should be something done, literally something done, rather than just have it as a facade of people smoking in low-income housing. They say it on the door. They say it all over the building, but everybody's smoking, especially during the winter, in the buildings. And now you get this pot thing going on. I don't think it's right and fair for the elderly to be putting up with a lot of this other kind of stuff where they got low-income housing rather than elderly housing, where you've got a smorgasbord of kids and people and things when it was really geared for the elderly, and it's really cut against the grain. And these are the people that have made this country, fought for this country, and nothing's being done about it. The director has no backbone. The Department of Public Health has no spine or backbone, and nothing's being done about it. Why isn't it, and how come? People that never smoked have to put up with it, living in there. All
right, tell you what, let me let the mayor respond.
I mean, obviously this is a housing authority matter. The housing authority is not part of the city. There is to my understanding, there is a rule against smoking in public housing, and if the housing authority is not enforcing that rule, then I'll be happy to pass that message along to.
So this gentleman's afraid now they're going to be starting to smoke dope out in the hallways and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, if that may be a legitimate concern. I mean, if the no smoking of cigarettes is not being enforced, then there may be. People smoking marijuana. I don't know. This is the first I'm hearing that there's a problem, but I mean, I'll be more than happy to pass that along. They should be enforcing a rule that's on the books, and and maybe he's brought it up to to the housing authority. Maybe not. Either way, I'll be happy to pass the message along.
Thanks for the call, my friend. 508-996-0500. You're next with the mayor on WBSM.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey.
Hey, about 9:15 today, John, I was coming back from the Cape, took the off ramp there right in, go right in the market basket. On the way down the ramp, I didn't see a guy right at the end of the ramp. I could see the guy on the other side, on the 7-Eleven side.
Yes.
And at the last moment, a guy steps out from behind the sign. We were the second car back instead of walking toward the car I was in. And the person with me was so startled, she was getting ready to call the state police. Then she said, "Oh, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to sit here and wait around."
He was walking on the highway ramp?
The little island,
yep,
which is only separated by about 2.5 feet, the on-ramp, off-ramp.
Yep.
He was right standing there, but in front of the sign, and we couldn't see him until he stepped in front of us.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, it's just a
state. That's state, wouldn't it be?
It is. It's not to say that the New Bedford Police can't do anything about it. So I'll Phil, you might have heard me with the previous caller.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I think we should be on that. I mean, if some of these folks who are standing or asking for money, they're darting into traffic, then the police should be on it, and I'll make sure that happens.
508-996-0500. You're up next with the mayor. Go ahead. All right, you're up next with the mayor. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, all I got to say is as far as the taxes, I just can't believe they keep going up on the taxes when, like in January, February, it comes out in the newspaper. It's like 3 pages of people, they haven't paid their taxes yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is that why, if they collected that money, I think the taxes would be a little bit reasonable, I think.
That's a good point. Are we aggressively collecting?
Yeah, we have the unpaid tax liability in the city's gone down a lot in the last few years, in part because we've sold off the tax liens to a private entity that's gone out and collected them, and a lot of people have responded by saying, you know what, I don't want to have my property sold off. I'll get on a payment plan, and so they've gotten onto payment plans. So that liability has gone down a lot. A few years ago, it was around $20 million. It's substantially less than that now. I don't know as I sit here today what exactly it is, but I know it's a lot lower. But we'll continue to do that.
Do we have a problem still with, do we have abandoned properties or people's properties that are vacant that the taxes are owed on and nobody's paying those taxes?
So there's some, yeah. The number of vacant properties has gone down over the last several years as well. I know there were, when I got into office, I think there were some 200 vacant properties. It's well under 100 now. And, especially with the rising housing market, there are more of those that are getting scooped up and rehabilitated. So that's actually going down.
So are we willing to talk to prospective buyers in maybe troubled neighborhoods about, waiving some back taxes to get them in there to develop?
We do, but we're constrained by state law. We can't entirely waive taxes, nor can we waive all the interest. The interest under state law is really high. It's 16% on unpaid taxes, which is huge, and we can only diminish. You can only lower it to 12%, so it's still high. So that's these people who haven't paid their taxes do fall behind quite a bit as a result.
All right, we're out of time. I'm going to light the tree on Saturday night.
Just like this. Yes. Get yourself better, Barry.
I'll be there with bells on, maybe. Who knows? Thanks, Mayor. See you later. We're back on the other side. Stay with us.